Okay, so we're back from UKREiiF, a really important conference for Team Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, because we have the opportunity to sell what is special about our region, and more importantly, our local growth plan, which sets out our ambition for tripling our region's economy and all the things that we need to see people invest in. And I'm with Joe from Arup, who are one of our key sponsors, a key partner at UKREiiF. And behind me, I'm in Cambridge, where Arup's offices are. So tell me, why have you decided to invest in Cambridge or locate yourself in Cambridge?
Thanks, Paul. So we chose to locate ourselves in Cambridge towards the end of last year, predominantly so that we could cover projects across the east of England and the whole of the Oxcam corridor. It's a really good gateway for us just to try and kind of embed ourselves in the area, start to understand the locality, but actually have that reach across those two regions.
Great. And what sort of projects are you working on in Cambridge and in East of England?
So we're working on lots of different things. So if I just pick out maybe a few of them that we're working on. So we've been working with AstraZeneca on one of their latest buildings.
Wow.
We are involved in the Peterborough station quarter, so all of that redevelopment around the station. And then we have some slightly more historic stuff. So we work quite a lot with the University of Cambridge as well.
Yeah.
And we're in the process of helping them to refurbish their Grade 2 listed Stirling building. So it's quite complex from a technical perspective, but also in terms of working with the Greater Cambridgeshire Planning Service to get all of those approvals.
Great. So look at that. Key things to my growth plan already. The Peterborough Station Quarter, unlocking investment in that great city. I'm working with AstraZeneca, who are chairs. The chairman of AstraZeneca chairs our business board, so Sean Grady. So great. So you are our key partner at UKREiiF. What's your reflections on that meeting?
So my reflections on UKREiiF were, well, it was busy and it was intense, but actually for me it was the real buzz and the real optimism, particularly around Team Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Pavilion. So I spent quite a lot of time there. I started off listening to your breakfast welcome, and really just the enthusiasm from everyone and that real willingness to work together. And it feels much more so than the last couple of years that people are really working towards a common purpose now.
Yeah, I mean, and you've seen our local growth plan. You've seen some of the things that we're talking about. What are your reflections on that, and how do you think that landed at UKREiiF?
So I think it landed really well. I think people respond well to geographic locations. So things like the opportunity zones, I think were tangible and allow people to really think about what those opportunities could be. And although we know there are challenges around things like infrastructure, in order to realise that, having something tangible for people to focus on is really good. I think there was a lot of momentum around the sectors as well. So particularly things like life science for Cambridge. And I know that Team Cambridgeshire and Peterborough had a lot of really good panellists representing particularly some of those corporates who are based here.
So we're here in Cambridge, Global City Cambridge. That's one of the priority zones we talked about, one of the opportunity zones. What do you think the future looks like for Cambridge? I mean, obviously I have my view on Cambridge and how it can enhance itself to be that, continue to be that world destination. Do you share that view?
I absolutely share that view, and I think one of the things, as a kind of multidisciplinary engineering consultancy, we are involved in lots of different things. So we will look at infrastructure, but we will also look at strategic planning. We're also working on research projects with the university and corporates who need to link with them. So I guess we see all sides of it to some extent. And I really do think it's got that potential. Being realistic, there are some big infrastructure challenges for us or for the city, and working on all of those things together. So not looking in isolation, for example, at transport, but looking at energy, water, landscape, to me, is the thing that will really unlock this as a global city.
Yeah, so I think there's three major constraints, probably fourth, right? So you've got, as you say, water, we've got energy, and we've obviously got congestion and getting people in and around. Another one is homes, okay? So let's just focus a little bit on homes, because I talked quite a lot at UKREiiF about something that we all probably know about, this Ely Junction. You've heard that statement before. And the opportunity that Cambridge South Station, really offers the Fens and the rest of our region. We talked about different places like Whittlesea, March, Mainey, Ely, all on that line, of course Peterborough as well, all on that line connecting Peterborough, two big cities, Peterborough and Cambridge. And what do you think we need to do in order to try and get things like Ely Junction over the line as an infrastructure project?
I think for something like Ely Junction, it's about recognising and articulating all of the benefits, and those benefits go beyond just this region. So I think there's a really key focus around connecting Cambridge and Peterborough together, from a people perspective. So that could be unlocking jobs, but also that tourist economy, and starting to expand that out beyond people coming, say, from London into Cambridge and not really going any further. So I think there's a big piece around people. I think there's a big piece around freight as well. I'm one of those people who has to use the roads around here quite a lot. So I'm on the A14 a fair amount. But actually, unlocking Ely Junction would take so much of the freight off that road. I think the stats were something around 98,000 freight journeys would be removed. And that would make a huge difference, not just in the Cambridge area, but actually across the Fens and across into the Oxcam corridor, I think. So I think part of it is about developing a combined business case to government, maybe working with private sector to say, well, actually, if we can do this, it improves the infrastructure, it improves the roads, does that unlock areas where it's more viable to then create some of these homes that we're looking for?
Well, do you know something? I completely agree, because I think the business case in the past has purely been based on freight. And look, let's not underestimate freight, right? 98,000 HGV or freight journeys off the road. All of us have been stuck behind an HGV either on the A14 or worse still on some of our fen roads. To get those journeys by freight, obviously by rail, would obviously be a huge improvement. But it's been based on freight only. To get that case built on homes as well, and the number of homes it could unlock, in places like Whittlesea, March, and other places, but also going up towards Kings Lynn and Downham Market. It's a real gateway to the east of England. And that's why I'm really passionate about no longer using this kind of Ely Junction terminology, because it's been rejected now 21 times, I've heard so, by government. And we've talked about Ely Junction. And what did I say? I think I called it the Oxcam Eastern Gateway. Because look, and I genuinely believe that, because I think either Peterborough and Ely and the Fens, they're either part of the Oxcam arc or they're not. So let's call it what it is.
Yeah. And I think I'm completely aligned in that. I listened when you called it the Oxcam Eastern Gateway. I thought that's exactly what it is. And that, when I think about what we're doing and why we've based ourselves here, it's the same kind of thinking that we are looking at, is how do you connect those two areas together? Yeah,
because it's not just it's not just Peterborough, Ely, and that area. It's also the rest of the east of England as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we've talked about a little bit about Cambridge and the opportunity here. We've talked about the Eastern Gateway. Our growth plan also talks about Peterborough as a place, and you're doing the station development in Peterborough. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your work there?
Yeah, I can do. So we're working on that Peterborough Station Corridor. As most projects are related to a station, it is complex when you're dealing with transport and lots of different stakeholders. There's been quite a lot of work in terms of pulling together what the needs of everyone are. I suppose the thing to talk about with Peterborough is that the station corridor is only one part of it. So that will unlock, I would suggest that unlocks the start of Peterborough starting to develop and grow. I think there's lots more opportunity around public realm and creating spaces for people. I've lived in this region for the best part of 15 years. Peterborough has always been my closest city, so it tended to be the place I go to shop, for example. The more that you can develop that and improve that, I think the more you will attract people to the city. I think you talked at UKREiiF quite a lot about the nighttime economy. And that opportunity actually just to bring more of that back, I think is really, really positive.
Well, look, I mean, Peterborough is a city. It's not a small city. It's nearly 250,000 people now, right? So Peterborough is a sizable city. And you're right. While that station quarter is the biggest levelling up project in the entire country to date, but it's just a start. There's so many other things, and that's why this Mayoral Development Corporation, the idea of putting a ring around our city centre, the fastest growing city, it's not about putting boxes on parcels of land anymore on the outskirts of Peterborough and thinking that's enough. It's actually looking at that city centre and creating a place, I think. And Peterborough had become a destination in the past. It was also a destination for retail, for events, and for a nighttime economy. I think if we don't focus on those three things, we lose something. So that station quarter can be the start of about 5 or 6 other development sites across as part of a whole picture around Peterborough.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And I think the place piece is really important, because people do talk about homes. And actually we've shifted as Arup. Sometimes we did a piece round table event in Cambridge a few months ago, where we decided to talk about streets rather than homes, because people don't necessarily think about just their home. They think about their street and the area and the community that they're developing when they move to somewhere. And I think that's perhaps a subtle shift that we can make, where you start to talk about place not just from city perspective, but actually those smaller communities.
That's right, and that's how you get people behind, I think. Sometimes development, which is difficult, because when you're doing development in an urban area, it can be challenging sometimes, but when you stop talking about a place, I think you can bring the public with you.
Yeah.
So we've got Global City Cambridge, it's internationally significant. People know what we're talking about when we've got Cambridge, but we've also got that fastest growing city opportunity in Peterborough as well, the biggest city in our region, and one of the fastest growing cities in the country. So they're the two big development opportunities we've got in our region.
So Paul, I spent quite a bit of time at the Oxcam Pavilion as well as Team Cambridgeshire in Peterborough, and one of the things that I really noticed was the level of maturity of having a combined authority in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough that has been in place for quite a while. I wondered whether you could talk a bit about how you find that and how that differs maybe from across the rest of the Oxcam arc.
Well, perhaps something I found slightly jarring, if you like, is I saw the Team North. I saw I saw all the mayors from the North combining together and lobbying for their area. I'm the only mayor in that whole Oxcam region. I'm also the only mayor in the east of England. And so I think that gives on me a sort of responsibility. And while, Oxfordshire and Bedfordshire, we've got some great, councils who are focused on growth and are focused as part of this project. They're a service delivery organisation at the end of the day too. They've got things such as adult social care to deal with, children's services, whereas my focus is purely around growth and using all the things that I'm responsible for, whether it be transport or skills or infrastructure, pushing that growth agenda at the centre of all of those things, I think is really, really important. So, hopefully we will get mayors at the rest of the Oxcam region soon and the rest of the east of England too, so we can club together like they have done in the north. But this gives me a unique role and unique perspective to focus on things like this. We're the only part of the Oxcam with a growth plan that can really be linear and focused on the things we need to achieve.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And do you think actually that Cambridgeshire and Peterborough therefore can be almost a bit of a test bed that allows those other areas across the Oxcam to start to develop the same kind of growth plan, to use that almost as a blueprint for how they can start to look at it for their region?
Well, I think so. I think we can demonstrate what we can achieve with this idea of a combined authority. And if we can't make it work here, and then the whole Oxcam area has got a long way to go. But there's some great opportunities all the way along. We've got East West Rail, we've talked about that. We've got Universal Studios, which is happening just over the corner in Bedfordshire. And if we can offer that sort of clarity of thinking about how we get these projects over the line, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think clarity of thinking is a really good way to put it. And I had a similar conversation on a panel that I chaired, where Lord Valence talked about clarity of purpose. So actually everyone working towards a common purpose. And I think that's really key. And if we can start to pull together private sector, corporates, public sector, then there is that opportunity really to realise that growth, isn't there?
There is. We've got to think about what are the handful of things we want to achieve, and just align all of the things that we're responsible for on those things, whether it be transport, right? Connectivity, as I said, skills. Do we have the skilled people in our region and across the whole Oxcam area to build the homes that we need, to build the infrastructure that we need, to do the jobs of tomorrow, especially somewhere like Cambridgeshire and Global City Cambridge, where we're talking about data and energy centres and life sciences. Do we have people, with those skills? So that, I think, is the purpose of a growth plan and what a real combined authority and a mayor can really achieve. So let me give you an example. So we've got a statutory duty to produce a spatial development strategy. That's a region-wide approach to planning and some of the homes and some of the developments that we need for the next sort of 20 or so years. That spatial development strategy, like the London plan, will give us that guide. Now, my view is that we need a light touch SDS, something which is not like the London plan, where it's like a Christmas tree and you have to hang things onto it, to make development that little bit more difficult. What I want the spatial development strategy to be is a document that says yes rather than no a lot of the time.
I think that's a really good point, Paul. And for us, sitting in that consultancy space and having to deal with spatial development strategies, for example, I think having that flex and that ability to change. The reality is that the needs of a region change over 20 years.
That's right.
And actually, the main drivers of a region change over 20 years as well. So having that flexibility, I think, is really important. And I think the other point from our perspective is actually it's got to be implementable. So a growth plan, a strategy, a spatial development strategy, that is all great. You can have that ambition. It's got to be implementable. And I guess that's the space that we like to sit in, is how can we help combined authorities, local authorities realise those ambitions.
Well, I think that's right. And to give the government credit, they have given us that flexibility they're not being too prescriptive about what they want to see in an SDS. And as I say, I want the SDS to be flexible, but also be light touch in order to be an enabler for development. The other thing is, I want us to be first as well of all the regions.
That challenge.
Yeah, it's something my officers, kind of grinned at when I said so. But look, we understand that we need to work in partnership with people like yourselves, with the private sector, to try and get this right. Okay, if there was one challenge, I think a lot of combined authorities and anyone in local government or in government, full stop, will tell you it's the capacity issue, and that's the point that I've been making to ministers all the time, that we need more capacity to realise their ambitions. And one of the ways we can increase our capacity is work with people like you, work with other kind of partners across the private sector to get that right.
Paul, we've talked a little bit about kind of the growth plan and how you can start to realise that. From your experience as an MP, but also now as the Mayor of the Combined Authority, what's your view on how we can get public sector and private sector working together really to realise some of this ambition?
Well, I think gone are the days where you can expect government or the public sector to fund absolutely everything. I mean, I think the idea of turning up with a begging bowl to the Treasury, I think that those days have gone. We've got to understand that we've got to use a whole range of different funding mechanisms, whether it's kind of pension funds, stuff that came out of the Mansion House Accords, or whether we talk about looking overseas for overseas investors. I think one of the challenges we've got is quite often the public sector aren't that great, if I'm being honest, at talking to the private sector or to those people with money who wish to invest. And so the biggest challenge that I have, I think, as Mayor, is turning vision, and I can give you vision till the cows come home, right? I can give you ambition till the cows come home, but turning that into investable propositions. That's what this is the start of. Investable propositions that people can and are willing to invest in, whether it is a pension fund or whether it is places from overseas. And I think the private sector and the public sector need to better talk to understand how we marry those two things up.
I think there's a real need to articulate, isn't there, that? So those investable propositions are now articulated, but how do you also then articulate the changes that are happening in the region that will enable that? I mean, one of the things that occurs to me when you talk about, well, if we go back just for a moment to the spatial development strategy, was the level of feasibility and studies that have been done in this region already, particularly around Cambridge. We should be building on that. I'm really trying to, you talked about it, wanting it to be the first SDS. Well, actually really building on what's been done already, working with all those stakeholders in the area to realise that quickly.
Well, we're not starting again. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the key. So a lot of work has been done already. And the local plan that's happening here in the Greater Cambridge area, my SDS is really going to be a stepping stone beyond that. So the local plan, all that work's been done already. A lot of the challenges and the constraints that we've identified that need to be overcome, that's been done already. We're not starting again. And the SDS is the next level of that, also responding to the ambitions of the Cambridge Growth Company. But also, it's not just about the Greater Cambridge area, it's also looking to the rest of our region and how we can add to that growth story for Cambridgeshire and Peterborough.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And there's something around when you talk, we haven't really talked about the sectors that are identified in the local growth plan. But for example, advanced manufacturing, actually it reaches across Oxcan, it reaches into the east of England. And I think there's huge opportunity there. So I've spent a couple of years working with some SMEs in this area. And when you hear their ambitions of how they can take their businesses and expand beyond, you just think, well, there really is opportunity. And is it just about connecting some people to realise that?
Well, one of the best things I think this combined authority have done, way before my time, by the way, one of the best things that I think we've done is at the North Cambridgeshire Training Centre. So that's in Chatteris, in the Fens, and a company called Metalcraft, or a nuclear engineering company, didn't feel that there were people coming forward with the skills that they needed in order to grow their business. And so in partnership with the combined authority and West Suffolk College, they set up their own sort of training centre in Chatteris. And now what that's done is it's brought other companies like Aerotron and other companies to the Chatteris region, knowing that they have got skilled young people coming through. They've just celebrated their 500th apprentice. And that's where advanced manufacturing can operate, not just in the Greater Cambridge area, but the rest of our region, whether it's Hunt, whether it's Fens, or whether it's Peterborough. And something like an advanced manufacturing park at Chatteris could provide those jobs for tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. And I've got kind of a special affinity with that. So I spent some time with Metalcraft working with them on how they could kind of develop their apprenticeship programs. And, as coming from an engineering consultancy myself, we are always looking at how can we improve the training for our apprentices. So actually hearing of those kind of training centres actually being invested in the region gives us opportunity, I think, as we grow here, to look at how might we be able to train our new young people as well.
Well, absolutely. Coming from the Fens myself, I know the ambition of young people there, who want to go on and get good jobs, who want to bring up families where they grew up too. But we've got to make sure those jobs are local. And that's what things such as that North Cambridgeshire Training Centre can deliver. We're not done yet. I mean, ARU Peterborough as well, that has transformed skills opportunities for young people in the north of our region, because I think well over 50%, if not nearly 60% of people who go to ARU Peterborough come from PE postcodes. So that means that people don't have to leave our region in order to get that higher education, or in the case of the North Cambridgeshire Training Centre, that further education, that skills-based education that they need to go on and be successful.
Yeah, there's a really nice link back, isn't it? And it makes you realise that discussion around homes then becomes more important, because if you've got more people staying in the area, studying in the area, and then being employed in the area, you've got to have the homes to support them.
Homes near where they grew up.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
Good.
So UKREiiF, we had a session in our pavilion around landscape-led development, sponsored by Arup, and you were there in the audience, Joe. Tell us a little bit about your perspective on that panel as an audience member.
So I really enjoyed that panel. My colleague John, who chaired the session, had really tried to shape something around shifting the focus from infrastructure to landscape. And I think you had a great panel to do that with. So you had the developer represented, you had the Landscape Institute represented, you had designers represented. And it made for a really rich conversation, I think, around, you talked before about creating place, about how you create places for people. But that being not just about creating a hub, but actually how do you go beyond that? How do you reach into the countryside, for example? The thing that struck me was actually Urban and Civic gave a really nice example of some of the challenges they've had with their Alconbury Weald site and creating a community there, but also reaching out into the communities that already live in the surroundings, creating spaces for them. And they've got a really, really strong programme, a kind of currently curated programme that brings people together. And so you end up with these new communities that are a blend of people who've moved into the area, people who lived there for a long time, and those who've just shifted a little bit into those new houses. And I thought that was a really nice story about how creating landscape spaces can really start to change and create those communities.
I think you're right. I think Alconbury Weald is a real example of how that's working. I mean, I've been there and there's some great facilities, and it's what I always say. Growth is great. Okay, growth is good, but it's got to work for people who already live here. It's not just about bringing other people into our region. Important as that is, it's got to work for existing people, and that's how you bring people with you, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing we have to be realistic about is that it takes time to build a community. It can't just appear from scratch. So I remember visiting Alconbury Weald 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I visited again a month ago. And the difference is
phenomenal.
The new school going up and the linkages of all the different community hubs and a little shopping area. So, when I first visited, there was a tiny little community shop. There's now a whole supermarket. And it just gives people that ability to really kind of live properly in the area where they've chosen to have a home.
As you say, it's a place.
I think the other bit from my perspective, the landscape piece, you've talked a little bit about that tourist economy and linking some of the cities together. And I think we have a real passion for ensuring that some of that natural landscape across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough is capitalised upon for those reasons. We've got the Great Ouse running through this area. It's a wonderful natural resource.
It really is.
To actually spend time. But I don't necessarily think that everyone knows about it or that they have access to it. So there's some opportunities there, I think, with private sector developers to link into some of those natural resources that exist.
Well, I spent a wet afternoon on a boat going through the Great Ouse. So look, it is an absolutely fabulous place. And I think sometimes when we talk about a place, we've talked a lot about growth. We've talked a lot about a place for people to invest in. But it's also, as you say, this is a community at the same time. And we've got so many wonderful advantages here in Cambridge and Peterborough. And having places that people want to visit, as you say, our tourist economy, I think that builds on that sense of place and that sense of belonging.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my one last reflection on that panel was really, you talked a little bit earlier around skills, but it was interesting that skills came into the discussion on that panel as well. There are, it turns out nationally, some challenges around having just enough landscape architects nationally to ensure that landscape-led regeneration can actually be at the forefront, that they're involved at the start of those really project conception pieces. So maybe that's something for us all to think about in terms of that skills piece. Is it one of those areas where we perhaps haven't yet identified?
Okay, so let's continue the conversations going. Let's work together. I thought UKREiiF was a real success. My first year as mayor has been about setting that ambition and that vision. Year 2 is going to be all about delivery. We don't want UKREiiF just to be a set piece. Neither do we want this document just to be a strategy that sits on a shelf. We've got to deliver now.
Yeah, Paul, absolutely agree. And I think we're very much in it and here and hoping that we can support on that. I guess for Arup, on a personal level, we are really looking to grow in the same way that the region is growing. And so we really hope that we can be a part of that big story and ensure that we see some of that ambition and vision that has been set out in the growth plan.
We need you to be part of that story.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks for coming in to see us.
No
Paul.
problem.
Really good chat.